Yoo-hoo. You guys, hi. Welcome. Welcome to Life Coach University. My name is Heather Flake. I am here today teaching us all about cultivating an attitude of gratitude. I'm going to pop in here and change my name. We're going to wait while Zoom pulls everybody in. I always forget how to do this. It will come to me. Anyways, I'm so happy to be here. So happy that y'all are here. This is going to be a great time. How do I change my name? Here we go. Okay, my name is Heather. Okay. All right. Again, welcome. My name is Heather Flake. I'm here on behalf of Life Coach University. Life Coach University has the mission to get coaching to millions more for free. We want people to be able to experience the power and magic of life coaching. And we just want that to be a super accessible way for everyone to receive it. So be sure to head on over to lifecoachuniversity.com and you can check out all the classes, all the amazing things that are happening over there. There's always really lit stuff happening. Lots of different amazing coaches with different backgrounds and niches that are always giving pay it forward talks on all kinds of different topics. So head on over there so you can check out all of the goodness that's going on. And again, we do work on a pay it forward platform, which simply means that as you come and attend these classes and coaching calls, we just invite you to pay it forward in the world in whatever way that you see fit. So whether that's taking someone dinner or paying for someone's drink in line behind you or holding the door open or being more patient with your kids in the bathtub, whatever it is, we just invite you to pay it forward in this lovely world in whatever way that you see fit as a result of what you've heard today. All right. A few little housekeeping things. If you look on the bottom of the screen here, hold up, let me move this so I can see y'all. You'll see two Q&A little like text bubbles. That's where we hang out. So if you have a question or a comment or something you want to share, if you want to get some written coaching, you can pop in the Q&A and put it in there and I will take care of you. So no one can see you. No one can hear you. You're totally safe. This is a safe, fun space. And I'm really glad that you're here. All right. We're going to dive right in. So today, I mean, it's November somehow. Isn't that insane, y'all, that it's already November? But with next week being Thanksgiving and just with the holidays here upon us, it's not like even they're coming, they're here. I was thinking a lot about gratitude and just the idea of how do we cultivate an attitude of gratitude? I know we hear that. Like, I know that's a phrase that's very common. It's like, oh, an attitude of gratitude. Like, gratitude will fulfill your life, which it will. Gratitude's amazing. But I think it's really important to actually think about that for a second. How can I cultivate that? I love that word. I am not a gardener. I'm not like a flower person. I don't have plants. That is just like not my jam. But I really love the word cultivate. Like, how do we create grounds in our mind and in our life, in our relationships, where gratitude and appreciation and love can really just like grow and be present and be beautiful and be a part of us. So that's what we're talking about today. And then specifically how having that gratitude can literally transform your relationships. I know that I've seen that in my own relationship. And I'm a marriage coach. I don't coach couples. I mainly just work with women who want to be married. They want to stay married, but they're just like, yo, this is not what I signed up for. The women that I work with often feel a lot of resentment or just they're really disappointed and discouraged at how things are. And so I help women learn how to create more connection and joy and harmony and peace in their relationships, regardless of their spouse. So it's really fun. And I love doing that. And I've seen such a shift in my own relationship when I was able to replace, I don't even know what the word is. I just remember like being in such a state where I was like very like focused on all the things my husband wasn't doing in the way that I wanted him to, right? I wanted him to change. I wanted him to be different. I wanted him to be more this way, less that way. And it all came to a head. And I just remember realizing, like, dude, you're not even enjoying or experiencing who he actually is and all of the goodness that is him because you're so focused on what he's not. I was so like concerned with the lack that I was not allowed or able to see all of the good. And I hated that. I hated that feeling. And that was not a space where I wanted to hang out. And so, um, through coaching and just like intentional work and effort, I was able to really change that. But I think gratitude is a huge part of that. So let's kind of talk about that. Now, you can look this up on the internet. I was doing this yesterday, like defining gratitude, and I'll just be really honest with y'all. Gratitude, grateful, thankful. Some people are like, oh yeah, they're definitely not the same thing. Other people are like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. So there's some variances in those definitions, but for the sake of what we're talking about today, we're talking about just like living in this state of being or an attitude of appreciation under any circumstance. Even when things are crappy, you can still access gratitude. Just kind of the quality or this feeling of being able to be grateful for what you do have. And especially for the sake of today, I'm talking specifically about the person. Maybe that is your spouse. Maybe it's not. You can pick whoever you want that person to be. But I'm talking specifically about the person you are trying to love better and you want a better relationship with. How gratitude and thankfulness for that person can allow you to see them in a whole new light and can offer you just like a whole revival in your relationship, which is so fun. Okay. So a lot of the times when we talk about gratitude, there is another G word that follows very closely behind. Can anyone guess what it is? Guilt. I hear so many people say this. I don't know if this is like a cultural thing, maybe for like culturally in my church or just where I live or where I don't know the circles I'm running around in. But all the time I'll hear my clients or my friends or myself say, I know, I should just be so grateful. I'm just like, do you hear how that sounds? Like, just listen to that for a second. I should just be grateful. So a couple things are happening when that's going on. Should, if you look up the word should, it's just like that word is used to indicate obligation or duty. So how sexy is that not? I know I'm obligated to feel gratitude for you. I know it's my duty to feel gratitude for you. Like, ain't nobody wanting to feel gratitude from that place. Okay. We want to feel gratitude from a place of desire and from want and from abundance. So we're going to talk about how we can unlock that today. But when you feel like you're just supposed to be grateful, it robs you from actual gratitude. And there's no shoulds, there's no rules. You don't have to be grateful for anything. Like, you have free choice. You can just be grateful if you want to. You can just possess an attitude of gratitude if you want to, because that's going to feel amazing for you. And that's going to benefit your life and probably have an amazing ripple effect with the people around you. Okay. But the other thing that happens with shoulds and with this gratitude guilt is it discounts what you want and what you value, right? So it's like, I know I should just be happy with what I have. But instead, let's be happy with what you have and love it. But then you can also just create more of it simply because you want to and you can. All right. So when you say I should be grateful, that's usually implying that you're not. And then you're thinking that you're less than or you're bad or you're undeserving because you aren't. So maybe there's just this unheard, unsaid explanation that we should be grateful and happy all the time. We shouldn't. Okay. We are here in mortality. There's lots of things that we don't want to be grateful for. There's lots of things that we don't want to be happy about. And that's just fine. That's part of the human experience. But don't should yourself into being grateful. Let's just be grateful because we want to. It's going to feel amazing for us and it's going to really impact our life and our relationships. Okay. Did I already cover this? One more thing. When you think you should be grateful, but you aren't, all you do is hate on you and you miss out on just generating gratitude and feeling grateful for what you do have and basking in how good that feels because you're just like, ugh, you should be different. You should be different. And if you'll notice, even outside of the context of gratitude, anytime you use the word should, it's generally from a place of shame. I should do this. I should do that. but we're not doing that. And we feel shame because we think if we were doing that, we would be better or more worthy or more accepted in some way, right? So just be onto yourself. Just recognize and notice how often you are in the should game. And then I want you to just try to separate gratitude and guilt. Gratitude, guilt. No, let's not have guilt for all the times we're not feeling grateful. You can feel grateful anytime you want to. We're going to talk about how to generate that. But also, if you're not feeling grateful, an alternative to guilting yourself and feeling shame about it is just asking, so why aren't we? What's going on for us? And not adding any judgment or pain to that. All right, let's scroll on down here. What do we have? Yeah. So we already talked about that a little bit. Like, you don't have to be grateful about everything, and stop saying that you should. I hear that phrase all the time. Oh, I know I should be grateful. I'm like, stop saying that. Okay. There's no rules. But a fun question to ask yourself is, why might you want to? Why might you want to have an attitude of gratitude towards your spouse, towards yourself, towards whoever that person is that you're trying to love or create a better relationship? Why might you want to feel deep gratitude for who that person is and how they show up in your life? That's a really fun question to ask yourself. All right, y'all. Let's talk about how to generate the gratitude. So, like anything, if you want to create something, or if you want to add to something, if you want more of something than what you already have, or if you want to create something that you don't have at all, you have to first acknowledge and understand where you are at, right? So I love to bake so much. I love baking. So if I have a recipe in front of me and I want to double it, I first have to understand the original recipe in order to then double it and make more of it, right? So kind of that same idea. So the first step in being able to generate more gratitude, or even if you don't have lots of gratitude at all, you can just stop and think about what you do have, right? Okay, pause. We have a question here and I'm going to pop in here because if I don't, then I get distracted. Okay, someone says, my partner says should, but it comes from a place of disappointment that things aren't perfect. Well, yeah, that's the thing. I feel like should is never in a delightful context. Like, should is never a good word. It's never helpful. I totally agree. It's always really coming from shame or, yeah, disappointment, thinking that things should be different or better than they are, but they aren't. My partner says should, but it comes from a place of disappointment. Yeah. So, I mean, the question is like, how does that affect you? Like, are you wanting some coaching through this? Yeah, things are definitely not perfect, and they don't need to be, right? Need to clear that. Okay. All right. So when it comes to generating gratitude, first take account of what you have. I remember doing this when I went through my coach certification program, and there was a worksheet where you had to sit down and write all of the things that you had. And then you were supposed to practice wanting what you had, because sometimes we're in this space of where we just want more, we want different, or we want better. And so we aren't even present with what we do have, and we're not even appreciating or loving or experiencing all of the amazing that's in front of us. And so it's actually a really fun and neat exercise to do, to just sit down and take account of what you have. Now, specifically, when we're talking about relationships, do that in an account with that person, right? So if I'm doing this with my spouse and I'm trying to create more gratitude for the spouse that I have, I'm going to sit and take account of like who he is, the qualities I see in him, the things that he brings into my life, where I'm going to make a list, an account of what I do have in this person, what I receive from him, how I feel towards him. Write those things down. Okay. Maybe you're working on this relationship with your body. Maybe you're trying to create a better gratitude of attitude for your body, or just for yourself in general. Again, take an account of what you do have. I saw this beautiful post on Instagram the other day of one of my friends, and she's older. She's quite a bit older than me. But she posted this picture, a couple of pictures of herself just like doing everyday things, like playing with her grandkids. And then her second post, she was wearing a shirt and it said "body made by queso." That's just funny. Anyways, her whole post was about how grateful she was for her body. And she's like, listen, like I've treated my body really poorly for decades on end, just eating things that really didn't help my body to feel good and not moving very much and whatever. But she's like, but at the end of the day, like my body is so good to me and my body's just taking it all in stride and she still responds and she helps me and she takes me everywhere I want to go. And I just love her. I'm so grateful for her. But I read that and I think that's so much of what we're trying to capture here. It's really easy to see where we're lacking. It's really easy to see what we're not good at, what we don't have in a spouse, in ourself, in a body, whatever. But when you take a minute to be intentional to account for what you do have in your spouse, what you do have with your body, what you do have within yourself, that is humbling to sit there and do that, because then all of a sudden you're able to realize consciously, like, oh, there is so much good. There is so much good in me. There is so much good in our marriage. There is so much good in my spouse. So take an opportunity to really account for it. If you want to generate gratitude, you've got to first take an account of what's already there. Okay. So the second thing I'm going to tell you too, the best way to generate more gratitude in your life is by tapping into your brain. Okay. So you want to think about what sentences in your brain are allowing you to feel gratitude and which sentences in your brain are robbing you from gratitude. I remember too, initially a few years ago when I did this work, like I feel like the first time of me really sitting down and doing this work, I remember just kind of getting out all of my thoughts about my husband and my relationship. And I was just like really sad. I was really discouraged and I felt a lot of guilt for what I was thinking. And that's a story for another day. But on the flip side of that is tapping into your brain and accessing, okay, what sentences in this mind of mine generate gratitude in my body, right? Because it's our thoughts create our feelings. So if we're wanting to feel gratitude, we're wanting to feel appreciation, we're wanting to feel thankful, that's going to come from a sentence in our brain. That's not going to come from the way our body looks in a dress. And that's not going to come from a compliment that someone gives us. And that's not going to come from our spouse putting his phone down and rubbing our feet, right? That will make it easier for us to maybe think those things, but essentially how you feel is always dictated by a sentence in your brain. So just also take account of that. What things do I think that allow me to feel gratitude? So again, back when I did this work, I remember like getting into the generation part of like creating new sentences and new beliefs. And one of the thoughts that I love that has always stuck with me was I struck gold in like thinking about my husband. I was just like, dude, I struck gold. And I think that all the time now. And that does allow me to feel so much gratitude. I love this because these are some of those original thoughts that I came up with years ago that have just stuck with me because I believe them and they resonate with me. The other one was, he's just such a beautiful person. Such a beautiful person. I'm so thankful that he's mine. I can't believe that he's mine. Out of all the people bopping around out there, he's mine. I love that. Like, so identify the sentences in your brain that allow gratitude to happen for you. And then just as important is to identify the ones that are robbing you of gratitude. This isn't fair. He doesn't help me very much. We aren't a good fit. He never does anything. I do everything. I can't accept myself at this size. My body is looking horrible. Okay. Again, you don't need to have judgment. You're going to have judgment, but really just try to look at this as just an exercise, as something that you're doing. And when you notice that self-judgment coming in, you're just like, no room for you. We're not doing that right now. Okay. So identify the sentences. Step 4, you have to intentionally train your brain to see the good. Okay. There's this concept called the gap and the gain. I think it's Dan Sullivan. One time I was referring to this. Dan Sullivan wrote some book. I don't even remember the title of the book. Okay. But it's really good. Anyways, he kind of is the one that talks a lot about the gap and the gain, basically the things that are good and the things that are not so good. And he talks about being able to train your brain to really live in the gains instead of the gap. Anyways, I was talking about that book once and I think I said Dan Reynolds, which is the lead singer for Imagine Dragons. And I was laughing out loud at myself, like how funny. Okay, let me pop in the Q&A box. We have a little question here. This person says, so the sentence I say is me stealing the happiness from myself. Boom. Yes. Yes, it is. That's exactly what's happening. But isn't that empowering? Like, don't let that be a discouraging thing. Like, I think what you just wrote in here is very powerful. So the sentence I say is stealing the happiness from myself. Yes. I'm taking a picture of this. Can I do that? I'm doing it because I've never thought about it in that way. But yeah, that's essentially exactly what's happening. No one's stealing it from you. You're stealing it from yourself. And like, let's just stop doing that, right? We don't want to keep doing that. Very beautiful, um, aha moment. Very good. Okay, so back to the gap in the gain. So you can intentionally train your brain to do this. I have a podcast. It's called Marriage Mindset. This is literally my very first episode talks about the gap in the gain. So you can go listen to that for like a crash course on how to train your brain to live in the gain instead of the gap. But basically, like I said, the gain is, oh, he's such a beautiful person. I struck gold. We're an amazing team. We work really well together. I love who he is. I'm proud of myself. Thank you, body, for doing all these things for me, right? Like all those things. The gap is he never helps me. I do everything by myself. This is really hard. We don't work well together. I'm fat and slow. I'm always behind. I'm not good enough. Gap, gain, right? So here's kind of the interesting thing. No matter what you do, and a lot of the times you're not aware enough with yourself to even notice this happening. But if you start to pay attention to it, you'll notice anything that you do, a gap and a gain will always present itself, right? Always. So you just want to intentionally train yourself to see the gain. It's kind of like, is the glass half full, half empty type thing, but I like gap gain better. Intentionally train yourself to see the ways in which you are winning. One of the ways you can do this, several years ago for Christmas, I bought my husband this little like this little cute notebook that was called Win the Day. And every night before you went to bed, you were supposed to write down your wins of the day. And my husband was really good at doing this. And it was so cool to watch like this transformation in him. So that's the idea. Track your wins. Notice what is going well, because it's automatic and it's easy to see what's lacking. But if you intentionally, anytime you can notice it, say, no, okay, but what did we do right? What went well today? What was good? We do this every night at dinner with my family. We do what's called the peach and the pit. So we go around the table and we say, okay, hey, what was the peach of your day? And you say something great that happened in your day. And then we say, what was the pit? Gap gain, peach pit, right? Sing the good. Okay. And something with this, when you're training your brain to see the good, you just have to practice. You have to be willing to suck at it at the beginning. And just so you know, it's something that probably your brain is going to naturally rebel against. Does that make sense? Your brain is not programmed or hardwired to just be like, oh, lovely, good, all the things. No. When we see something or when we wake up and we're like, oh my gosh, I look insane, my breast stinks. Like we're listing all the negative things. So when you consciously stand in front of the mirror and be like, yo, we're trying this new thing. We are going to look for the gains. We're going to notice all the ways in which we're winning. And then if you're trying to create a better relationship with your spouse, this is so fun. You're just like, listen, we're going to notice all the ways in which our spouse is freaking the best. And we are going to notice all of the good in them. And this takes practice. So this is just you practicing this in your mind. Like we haven't even started expressing it to the other person. It just takes practice. I was thinking about this yesterday. So my little boy is 3. He recently turned 3. And we started cutting his hair probably around the time he was 18 months old. Sorry, I'm just like so jittery today. I'm like bouncing all over. I'm sorry. We started cutting his hair when he was about 18 months old, and it was a nightmare. Brooks would scream bloody murder. You would have thought that I was taking him somewhere where they were chopping his limbs off. Like it was a nightmare. And I would be holding him down and he would be crying and I would be crying. And I got to this point where I was just like, you know what? This is not worth it. Let's just let him grow out his hair because I can't deal with this. Like this is too painful and it's traumatic and it's stupid. And I remember getting so discouraged because it would never get better. Like we keep going back to the haircutting place and every time it was the same thing. As soon as we pulled up into the parking lot, he would lose it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I even doing? But we have this amazing hairdresser named LaShonda. And LaShonda says, baby girl, just keep bringing him back. Just keep coming back. And I'm like, okay. And I'm so grateful for this woman that's just like, you know what? We're going to do this. It's fine. It's fine that he hates me. It's fine that he's kicking and screaming. It's fine that this is really hard. Keep coming back. So I was just like, okay. So even though Brooks hated it and I hated it so much, we kept coming back. We kept practicing getting our hair cut. And yesterday, a miracle happened. I did lots of little things along the way to try to make this better, but I couldn't see any evidence that things were getting better. Last time I took Brooks to get his haircut, not yesterday, but the time before, he cried, he cried, he cried. But once he got in the chair after like the initial first 2 minutes, he didn't cry. And that was amazing. And then yesterday I take him to get a haircut. No tears, no kicking, no fighting, no freaking out. I was able to talk to the hairdresser and get to know her more. It was so amazing. But as I was thinking about this, I'm like, listen, the only reason this happened is because we've just been practicing. We've been practicing for 2 years almost. And finally, we get it. Finally, Brooks feels comfortable and he knows he's not going to die when he gets his haircut. So it's the same thing with creating this attitude of gratitude in your brain and in your life and in your relationship. You just practice it. And some days you're not going to be good at it. And some days you're not going to be grateful. And that's okay. That's part of the practice. That's actually all working towards getting you to a point where you're like, dude, I really do feel like I have this beautiful attitude of gratitude that I've generated and cultivated and created. It just takes practice. Practice isn't sexy. We don't want to practice. We want things now. And we live in a very like now world. We get what we want pretty quickly all the time. So when we have to work for something or practice, it's like off-putting to us. But it's a tried and true method. It works. Okay, someone says, I like the peach in the pit. I'll try this with my family. Yeah, the peach in the pit is so fun. When we lived in Tennessee, sorry, I'm so itchy. I have all these baby hairs itching my face. When we lived in Tennessee, we had really good friends and they were peach and pit people. That's where we learned it, but it's really fun. Okay, someone else says, my partner says being optimistic seems fake. He doesn't go for it. That's fine. Your partner doesn't need to go for it. You go for it. Your partner gets to do whatever he wants, but do you want to be optimistic? Do you want to feel more grateful? Because that's the thing. Even if your partner doesn't, that's okay. They can be grumpy. They can be ungrateful. But you choosing to feel gratitude and you working on this and being intentional about it will feel amazing for you. And even if your partner is like, this seems fake, you can be like, hey, you're allowed to believe what you want, but feeling grateful over here for you. I'm obsessed with you. You just get to be you. All right. Oh, I pushed the wrong button. Oh no, what is happening? Hold on. I don't want to do Teams. Get away. Sorry, I pushed the wrong button. Okay. Cancel. All right. Okay, so this is we've talked about generating gratitude mostly just in your brain. And then step 5, when it comes to generating gratitude, is expressing it. So it's sharing it. Don't keep this inside, especially when it comes to your relationship. If you want to transform the relationship, you've got to share this with the person, right? But when you start to think about all that person is and how amazing they are, you're going to feel amazing and you're going to show up differently in your actions. It's going to start to transform you and how you act. And then I think naturally that creates more of a desire for you to share it with that person. And that can feel really amazing for both of you. All right. Do you have any other questions or comments? Next, we're going to be talking about, Next, we're going to talk about how just feeling gratitude. This is fun. Let me scroll down here. Okay. So, like I said at the beginning, anytime you're feeling grateful, thankful, appreciation, that emotion in your body, it's being created by a sentence in your brain. So I want you to take a minute to sit and recognize and identify where gratitude lives in your body. How do you know when you are feeling gratitude? I like to explain this as, when you open like a bottle of Sprite or like peach Fresca. I love peach Fresca and like the little fizzy bubbles. That's kind of how gratitude feels. Like I feel like it stems like in the bottom of my stomach and just like rises up in these little bubbles that like goes through my heart and then like tingles through my body. Gratitude. Like I can sit and close my eyes and I can think about gratitude and I can like feel it in my body. So I want to invite you to do that. Identify, where does gratitude live in your body? Is it in your toes? Is it in your butt? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your shoulders? Is it this feeling in your head. Identify where it is and ask yourself too, how do you feel it? What's the experience like for you? When do you feel it most? What brings gratitude into your body? Isn't that a cool question? And isn't that lit? Like you don't have to be waiting around for certain events to happen in order for you to feel gratitude. Like you can generate gratitude in your life every single day because gratitude is going to come into your body because of the things you're choosing to think. I just think that's so amazing. What an amazing gift. Okay. So something you can do, some of you might be sitting here. Sometimes my clients are like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea where that emotion lives in my body. And I'm like, it's fine. We'll figure it out. So you can do emotion work. If this is something you're interested in, send me an email or a message and I'll send you this little worksheet. But you just sit down and you ask yourself, okay, where is gratitude in my body? It's in my heart. It's in my stomach. And then you just ask yourself some questions like, okay, what color is gratitude? Like gratitude for me is like this very, very light, soft, peachy color, very light. Then you say, does it feel hard or soft? Does it move in my body? Does it move fast or slow? Is it light or dark? Is it warm or cold? Right. So you're asking yourself some questions, all with the intent to try to figure out and get familiar with gratitude in your body. You're just trying to be really present with gratitude in your body so you understand how it feels for you. So you recognize it when it's in you. And something really cool you can do too is once you recognize you're feeling it, you can ask yourself, why? Why am I feeling gratitude? And you will say, because I'm just so whatever. I'm just thinking. And that's a really fun thing to do and recognize like you're feeling those things because of what you're choosing to think. And sometimes maybe it doesn't feel really conscious. Like sometimes things will just happen in my life where I feel like this thought just comes to me. Like I just automatically think it in response to a circumstance. And that's kind of a cool thing too. So just taking a minute to be conscious and identify it, because then you can use it in the future to generate more gratitude. Okay. Okay. So lastly, you can feel gratitude by what you choose to think, and you can cultivate this attitude by just being intentional and consciously choosing thoughts that will allow you to feel gratitude. Okay. And that will allow you to feel that for the person that you want to love and create more connection with. So that's something that you could just sit down and ask yourself, okay, in a perfect world where I feel a lot of gratitude, what kind of thoughts allow me to feel that gratitude, and what kind of things could I choose to think on purpose about my spouse that would create more of this attitude for me? What kind of things could I choose to think about myself that would allow for way more gratitude in my life? Does that make sense? But here's the thing, and I was talking to a client about this morning. When you do this work and when you actually, like, how many people are sitting down and are writing down thoughts that make them feel grateful? Probably not tons, right? Like that's a pretty intentional thing to do. Everyone's busy, lots is going on. When you take some time to just do a little bit of this work, you may not see direct correlation automatically, but magic will start to happen in your life. Things will happen that you can't necessarily explain or say, oh, I created that by this thing. But when you show up and you do this work and you're intentional and you're practicing and you're trying, magic happens. And it's so fun to just sit back and see and experience that. Okay, now, do you have any questions or thoughts or anything? Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the gratitude lens. So, do you love all these questions I'm having for you? Ask yourself, how do you see the world? I know this is a very general question, but I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, like the world is going to hell in a handbasket. We are doomed, not good. Or it's just like, the world's amazing, full of great people, life's lit. Like, how do you see the world? Now, I know that this can vary. Some days I'm just like, yes, feeling great. And other days I'm like, no one talked to me. Okay. So it's going to vary. But also there's some things that I think can be way more consistent. Like, how do you see yourself? When you think about you and the person that you are, what kind of lens do you put on and see yourself through, or filter, right? What kind of filter is on? How do you view your spouse or your marriage? Like these things are really important for you to know. And this goes back to the first thing we talked about in generating more gratitude. Like understanding where you are right now is really helpful. sometimes my clients will feel a lot of shame, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I think or I feel that way. I'm like, yo, it's fine. It totally makes sense that you're thinking that way and you feel that way. But if you can get it out and you can see it, all of a sudden it's like way, way easier to see that, hey, there's somewhere else we could go because of where we are today. So if you're wanting to shift your lens, if you're wanting to put on the gratitude lens, first you just kind of want to identify, well, this is what I'm thinking and feeling and experiencing now. And I'd really love to be over here. Just ask yourself what lens. Maybe the lens of judgment is on a lot. Maybe the lens of hypocrisy or hurt or self-doubt or just negative. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's encouragement. Just kind of take a minute to think about that. Like, what lens do I see my spouse through? It's a powerful question. Hop in here. What you got? One of our friends says, I find I can be grateful when the other person is happy and easygoing. But when I'm around negative people, then I struggle with feeling grateful. Not sure how to access gratitude when I get influenced like this. Yeah, what a beautiful question. Thank you for bringing that up. So one thing that's important to recognize is other people, negative, grumpy people, cannot then make you feel negative and grumpy. All right. Now, of course, I agree. It's like when you're around happy, easygoing people, is it easier to think thoughts that make you feel more gratitude? Probably, but that doesn't mean it's not possible to think those things around grumpy people, right? I have this friend that is just like 99.9% negative. She's just very negative. Everything is kind of always doom and gloom, but I legit love her. Like I really do. Now, I don't spend tons of time with this friend. I see her frequently, but I just know that that's just who she is. That's how she is. That's the lens in which she sees the world, and that works for her. I'm not going to try to change her or be different. I can just accept and I just know that. But that doesn't mean that I have to put on that lens. That doesn't mean that I have to be grumpy and negative. It's just like, okay, that's totally valid for her. I accept that. And I love her negative little self. And I really do. I think she's amazing. And it's fine that she thinks that way. Like you don't need everyone to be easygoing and happy in order for you to feel gratitude. So your question, how can I access gratitude when I get influenced like this? I think maybe that's your question. What are you like? How are you allowing this person to influence you? And when you're around negative people, I struggle with feeling grateful. Why? Why do you struggle to feel grateful when you're around negative people? Like, why does their negativity make your ability to feel grateful harder? Just understand that for yourself. Like, what's going on there? Does that make sense? Because sometimes we just have these blanket statements. We're like, well, listen, I'd love to be more grateful, but I can't. I'm around super negative people all the time. But it's like, so what? That's okay. You can just be the grateful person that's around negative people. Like they can't make you feel that way. So when you start to not feel grateful or you start to feel negative yourself, it's because of what you're thinking. So maybe you're thinking, I can't be grateful around these negative people, or I hate how down they are. And then that's going to start to affect you, right? So just be onto yourself in that and kind of answer and walk through some of those questions. No, I keep hitting the wrong button. Oh, can someone get me some more water in here? Okay, the gratitude lens. Okay, fun question. So what would change if you saw your spouse through the gratitude lens? Like you were really able to see the good that they do. You were able to see the things you really love about them, the reason you picked them in the first place. This means seeing their efforts and their struggles and just loving them anyways, like being truly grateful that this person is yours. And I feel like for me, that's such a grounding practice that I feel like just brings me home, that brings like safety and security back into my life. Because like all of you know, there are just times in our marriages and in our lives when it's loud and it's busy and it's chaotic, and maybe you feel like you're being attacked by challenge after challenge, struggle after struggle. So I think it's a really grounding and amazing practice to come home and be like, okay, putting on this lens and seeing reasons you have to love this person and seeing the good in them and seeing their effort. That always just like brings me home and grounds me so much. So just recognize that that's something that you're able to do. And even if your spouse is a negative person, it's fine. That's just one thing. You can still choose to see other things. People are so complex. There's so much to us, right? None of us is just a one-sided human, right? We're very complex. So if you can choose to really look and see, you'll find it. But with that, so you can put the lens on, but you have to choose to put it on. So what this actually looks like in the action line is making a commitment to doing this. So telling yourself like, "Hey, for the next 30 days, we are putting on the gratitude lens and we are going to intentionally choose to see what our partner is doing well. And we're going to intentionally choose to express how much we appreciate them for X, Y, and Z." Right? This is kind of like deciding you want to be a runner and then you make a plan to run, right? You can't become a runner if you never run. So it's like, hey, I'm going to start running. And then you look at your calendar like, okay, so on Monday, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to run 1 mile. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to run 1 mile again. And then on Thursday, I'm going to run another mile, right? Like you make plans to actually become a person that runs. That's what's so beautiful about this. You don't have to be a naturally grateful person in order to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. This is a skill you can learn. You can just do it. You can become it. You can pick it up. And I think that's so amazing. You don't have to be super talented or super extroverted or super positive. Isn't that great news? You can just make a commitment and choose to put this on, choose to incorporate this as a part of who you are, right? So just ask yourself, what is your plan? How are you going to cultivate gratitudes toward your spouse? So I'll give you some ideas here, but basically I'm just inviting you to make a concentrated effort with like parameters around it. Like, okay, so for the next 30 days, I am going to tell my spouse one thing that I really appreciate about them verbally. Or for the next 30 days, I'm going to write down something I love about my spouse, and then I'm going to send them a picture of it. Or for the next 30 days, I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and tell my body something I really appreciate about her. So whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a specific thing. Maybe it's a journal. Maybe it's taking 1 minute every day to just sit and write for all the things you feel gratitude for or towards. Okay. But make some sort of a plan for you. And then if it's involving another person that you're trying to create this attitude towards, tell that person out loud something. And again, this is like the running example. If you say you're going to become a runner, you have to do things to make that happen, right? Like you're going to need to wear appropriate clothing. You're going to need to have time set aside to do it. You're going to, so the same thing with this. So maybe that means you put a reminder in your phone right now that goes off every day at a time when you're available. That's like, hey, send a text to your spouse. Or that's like, hey, write in your journal before you fall asleep. Maybe you write it on your calendar. Maybe you put it on your mirror. Maybe you tell your baby sister that's always talking to you anyways, hey, can you remind me to do this? Whatever, just set yourself up. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but just account for who and where you are. Pick a time, pick X amount of days that you want to do this for and try it on. But that's what's so cool. It's just you practicing, you doing something simple to create this attitude of gratitude that can really sustain you. So what's cool about this is when you feel gratitude for someone, you feel better, right? When you're thinking something that allows you to feel gratitude, that feels amazing. So then you show up in this amazing way and you create amazing things. You create more relationship that you want to have. And it does. It takes practice. It takes effort. It takes intention. But this is a journey that's fun and it feels good and it can be empowering, right? So you just get to choose what it is that you want to do, how you want to do it. And you can just start in really simple ways. But you're going to need good ground. You have to have seeds that you're willing and able to nurture and help grow. Like you got to believe that you're capable of creating this attitude, but the only way you're going to create is if you want to. And you do want to because you're here, right? So I would love to hear from y'all. What kind of have your takeaways been? What are you thinking? What questions do you have? But what are your takeaways? How are you going to cultivate and create more of this attitude in your life to transform your relationship, even and especially if that is a relationship with yourself? I think it's just powerful to recognize it can be in really like small and simple ways. I was just telling a client this before too. I run and any morning after I run, when I'm walking home on my cool down, I literally say out loud and I thank my individual body parts. I'm just like, feet, thank you so much for carrying us through. Thank you for being strong and grounded. Thighs, thank you for working. Thank you for your big, strong muscles. Thank you, butt. Thank you, heart, for beating. Thank you, lungs, for allowing me to breathe and get the air and the oxygen I needed. Thank you, mouth, for letting me chew gum and inhale and exhale. Thank you, ears, for letting me hear beautiful messages that inspired me and pushed me to keep going. Like, so just that very simple, small practice, I don't even know if it takes me a minute. It fills me with so much gratitude for my body that motivates me and encourages me to get back out there because I'm like, dude, I love hanging out with this body. Like, this body's amazing. And so you just get to a place where that becomes more automatic, right? Before that, maybe it's easy, like, oh, we were slow today. You were really dogging it. No, when you turn it into gratitude and you get in the habit of expressing gratitude, it kind of catches on like wildfire and can have such a beautiful ripple effect. Someone says, my takeaway is to not let negative people get me down. Yeah, and that's the other thing I'll say to you. Like, if you find yourself hanging out with a lot of negative people, maybe you can just ask yourself, okay, are these circles that I really want to be in? Right? Like, you just have that option. I always can remind myself, like, hey, you can just leave. Like, at any point, if this is just too much for you or it's really hard for you to be the person you want to be around these people, you can just go. There's no shame in that. You can still love them, but you can show up for yourself. But negative people can't make you negative. It might just come down to, you know what? I don't want to be surrounded by negative people. And so I'm going to love them from afar, but that's not a circle I'm just going to hang out in anymore. Okay. Someone else says, I think my takeaway is to set a schedule to practice gratitude. I love it. Yeah. And that's the thing. I know that we're all so busy. And it's like, if gratitude is another thing that shows up on your to-do list, it's probably not going to be fun. So maybe just incorporate it into habits that you already have. So like brushing your teeth. Most humans brush their teeth, right? It's something you already do. Just incorporate staring at your face or staring at your partner's face when they're brushing their teeth and saying two things out loud that you see in them that are beautiful. Like, you already have some set routines. How can you weave gratitude into it? It's kind of a fun way to think about it. All right, my beautiful friends. So just one more in a nutshell. Don't let gratitude guilt take over. Okay? Let's just drop the guilt. There's no shoulds. Anytime you notice yourself saying, I should be more grateful. No, you shouldn't. You should feel how you feel. And when you want to feel differently and when you want to legit feel gratitude, you can do that by tapping into your brain, by sitting and recognizing what's going on in your body and identifying that emotion and maybe what's blocking it. There's so many ways. You are not robbed from gratitude, right? No matter the circumstances of your life, of your relationship with yourself, with a spouse, with a child, whoever, gratitude is always something that you can cultivate for yourself. And it just will always have beautiful benefits and allow us to be more of who we want to be. All right. Does anyone have any other questions or any other thing? Oh, here we go. Let me answer this. Okay. Someone says, anytime I feel like complaining or criticizing, I'm going to redirect to saying something positive instead and express gratitude. Also, just being proactive and not waiting on others. Yes, I love that. I really do love that so much. And it's easier. It's easier to criticize. It's easier to see the negative. But there's just so much power in not doing that. And I love that. Anytime you feel like complaining or criticizing, just redirecting to saying or even seeing something positive and expressing it. It really will change your life. Do you notice this? It's the really simple, consistent things that change our lives. And I think gratitude is on the top of that list. That can be another thing if you're a religious person and you pray. I remember years ago being in some lesson at church, and this woman was talking about how one day a week when she says her prayers, all it is a prayer of gratitude. And that really stuck with me. And I've tried to do that ever since. So for years, just one of my prayers, I pray all the time, but I just consciously pick a prayer where I don't ask for anything. And I just simply express gratitude to God. for everything in my life. So even doing something like that, just allowing yourself to have that moment where your brain is clear and you're just thinking. And that's what's cool. Once you start thinking, even if you feel like you don't have that many things at the beginning, it builds on each other. And before you know it, you're finding all of these things that you have to be grateful for. So I think it's just implementing and weaving, because that's the thing. I already pray. So now it's just like, oh, for one of these prayers, just don't ask for anything. Just express gratitude. I'm already brushing my teeth. So just look in the mirror and acknowledge your beauty and be grateful for it. Right. So just weaving gratitude into what we're already doing. Oh, I hug my spouse every day. So now I'm just going to, after I hug him or while I'm embracing him, I'm just going to tell him one thing that I admire so much in him or her. Like, let's weave in these little small practices of gratitude that honestly will change our relationships and our lives. So powerful. All right, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for coming. I know that there are so many other places that you could be, and I'm so thankful and happy that you chose to be here today and to learn with me and to share. Thank you for sharing your experiences and your thoughts and your takeaways. It's so powerful. If you need help or if you get stuck or if you just want to share a win, share how gratitude is helping you and how you're doing this work, how you're weaving gratitude into your everyday life, send me a message. You can email me, heather@heatherflakecoaching.com. I'm also on Instagram at Heather Flake Coaching. I'd love to hear from you. If you feel like you're just in a gratitude deficit, like you've been blocked and you just can't access it, email me. I would love to help you unlock that gratitude. Or like our other friend said, if you're just feeling like you're around the haters all the time and you can't seem to feel it, I would love to help you figure it out because it's totally available to you. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And go get your gratitude on. All right, y'all, take care. We'll see you next time.